Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry for the slight delay. I had some technical difficulties going on, so I am streaming on my iPad today. I'm gonna try to get this. There we go. Today, in this live stream, I wanted to talk about an upcoming video series that I'm going to be starting over the next few weeks. Starting tomorrow, actually. And it's actually a series that I started a long time ago at the very beginning when I first started my channel, and I called it Storytime Saturday. And it was just like a weekly segment that I did every Saturday, and I would just tell stories about my experiences in language learning. And it was really nice because I believe that stories are really powerful, and they can have a big effect on our worldview. Sorry, I'm kind of OCD here, trying to get this camera centered on my bookshelf, but I guess you guys don't really care about that. Okay, distraction. Anyways, Storytime Saturday. It started off when I first started my channel, and I would just tell stories about my own experiences in language learning. Okay, I shared stories about like my most embarrassing experience learning languages when I was learning Spanish, and what I learned from that experience. And most of these stories, some of them were just funny, but many of them had some sort of moral or some sort of lesson that you could take out of as far as ways to become a better language learner, right? So that way you guys can learn from my mistakes. But these were only my stories that I was telling. And well, at the time, I was still pretty new to this online language learning community, so I only had my stories to tell. But I've come a long way since I first started my channel. Actually, when I first started my channel, I wasn't even planning on really being a YouTuber. I was an English teacher. I taught private lessons, and I just wanted to have a YouTube channel as a place to host my videos that I was creating for my students. So it kind of evolved from there. But so now I am much more involved in the language learning community online. I didn't even know there was such a community until I kind of threw myself into it. And now I've loved it. I've loved getting to know you guys here on YouTube, other language learners on Instagram and on Twitter, following other language learners on their social media, their blogs and stuff. And so I want to use this segment, this Storytime Saturday, as a method of just sharing our experiences. Not just my experiences, the experiences of, all the other language learners out there who have something to say, who have made attempts at learning languages and failed, or have found a really successful way to go about doing it. Every time, that's why, this is part of the reason why I talk about experimentation so much on my channel. I'm always experimenting with new ways of learning languages. And every time you do that, every time you make an experiment, you learn something, okay? So even if it was a failed experiment, it still wasn't failed because you got information out of it. You learned something about how to become a better language learner. And that's what this is all about. I've shared stories in the past about things that I've tried that just didn't work, right? I had a story, one of my stories was about this doohickey that I made myself. This is a soup can here. And I had this strategy about how I was going to use it to learn languages. It never actually worked out. I'm not sure if I can see chats in here or not. I'm doing this on my iPad for the first time. Okay. So I'm not sure how this live stream works on the iPad, but anyways, I digress. Um, you know, I made this thing, and I was expecting it to help me learn languages, and it didn't really do anything for me. But I keep it here as a reminder, and um, now I'm wiser, and I've learned from it, even though the doohickey didn't really help me. You guys can go back and watch that video if you want to look it up. I think I called it my language learning doohickey. I'm not going to take the time to explain it right now. But that's what this segment is going to be all about. So it will probably be not every Saturday, but maybe every other Saturday or once every few Saturdays, depending on how many other language learners I can get to submit material. Because I don't want it to just always be me giving my stories, because that'll only just give you a very narrow perspective. Of course, we all have our own stories and our own experiences to draw upon, but I want to give us a wide variety of language learners to learn from. And, so with that said, I am also opening up an invitation to anyone who views my channel, anyone who follows me on Instagram or has found this video via any means. If you have a story that needs to be heard, a story about something to do with language learning, but some way that you've something that is memorable to you about your journey in language learning, or just something that was funny. Hello, Rasmus A. Thanks for joining. We're talking about sharing our stories in language learning, because I'm trying to get a community of people here that can share from our experiences and help each other learn. And, I want to learn from my mistakes so that I don't make the same mistake twice. I also want to learn from other people's mistakes so that I don't have to go through the pain and suffering of going through the same thing that they did. And that's what this is all about. So, with that said, I'm offering an invitation to anyone on this channel, anyone in this community who has a story that needs to be heard. And like I said, this could be a very deep, significant story to you, something that has really helped you in language learning, something with some sort of moral, like my story about the most embarrassing thing that ever happens to me in language learning. You can go back and watch that video too. Or it might just be a funny story. I'm going to do some of those. I have pre-recorded my video for tomorrow that I'm going to release. It's called The Best Advice I Ever Received in Language Learning, or something like that. The best advice I ever received about learning languages. And it's just a story about a conversation I had before I really knew how to go about learning languages, and the impact that it had on my language learning. I'm going to do a video about two friends that I had that the three of us moved to El Salvador together. And they both had very different strategies for learning languages. And after a year of living in Central America, one of them spoke Spanish very well, and the other one did not learn Spanish at all. So I'm going to share that story. I'm probably going to share some stories just about my embarrassing language learning moments, my moments really hardcore messing up in Spanish, when I said things that I definitely did not mean to say. And it's embarrassing, but you get over it and you learn from it. Once again, I just want to extend the invitation to anyone. If you have a story that needs to be heard, please send me a message or a private message. You can email me at thinkdom.languages@gmail.com. You can send me Twitter private messages or Instagram private messages. My Twitter handle is Fingtam fingtam.langs, Langs, and my Instagram handle is fingtam.languages. So I want to hear your stories, and if I find it relevant and if it will be interesting to other language learners, then then you can either record a video of yourself telling your story, and then I'll just upload your video onto my channel. You can record audio of yourself if you're camera shy, or just write it down and I'll go ahead and read it. And if you want to extrapolate on why the story was meaningful to you or what you learned from it, by all means, I highly encourage that. I may, if I find it to be a really inspirational story or really educational, then I may add some of my own comments about what I think about it. And I would just love to hear all of our experiences and where we're all coming from. And I know a lot of subscribers would love to hear that too, just to give us a more well-rounded perspective of different ways of learning languages. So with that said, I'm going to end this live stream here. Keep it nice and short. Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for my next Storytime Saturday video tomorrow.